It is Friday, April 3rd, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was another no jiu-jitsu, get your ass kicked out jiu-jitsu Friday. It's getting terrible. I did do some working out today, though. Not letting the government mandates hold me back from trying to maintain a little bit of what I've earned. And hopefully that'll be resolved soon. I don't really expect that this is going to last much longer. I think people are just getting sick of looking at one another in their houses, and they're going to want to get back to work, and rightly so. You know, it's one thing to try and do things for people's health, but from what I can see, this thing isn't about health. It's about economic balance and trying to kind of ease us through the beginnings of what I believe is probably some sort of depression of some sort. But it's really interesting, and we're going to find out the hard way that socialism doesn't really work, especially if you don't have capitalists to suck money off of. You know, I think that's been the one big illusion that all socialists have been able to hold on to, is that they've always had socialism with some sort of capitalist element or fascist element out there. You know, somebody who is robbing and raping and stealing and killing from other people so that they can have. And they neglect to understand or recognize this, or even really give a shit about it when they do acknowledge it. It's like, oh well, it's happening to somebody else. They never stop to think, you know, there's somebody else too. And that's the shame of it, is that there's the assumption that because the man is victimizing people, that he's going to victimize people other than you. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your rank is. It doesn't matter what stack you are in fucking society. It doesn't matter what your caste is. It doesn't matter any of that shit. None of it matters. If you're not in the little special clubs, you are not going to be lasting very long. And at least not within their realms. And I think this is one of those opportunities and one of those times when the tiny number of people that do qualify and fit into that little group where they get everything they want while the rest of us get to go pound sand, I think they're going to find out the hard way that the number of them that really get the benefit is much tinier than they've been made aware of too. And that eventually that shit will catch up to enough of them that they will be revealing the plans and how to break the shit. Personally, I'm not wanting to wait around that long, because I believe people will starve to death before that shit happens. And it's just because of the basically the stagnance in the economy, that, you know, you should be out there growing something right now. If you weren't growing something before, grow something. I don't give a fuck if it's pot. I don't care if it's radishes, potatoes, something you can eat preferably. But yeah, plant some shit. You know, if you're not planting shit to eat, plant shit to make shit out of. You know, fast growing trees or stuff that can be woven into fabric like cotton or something else. But that's going to be the answers to this shit. It's not going to be government dependence, because it always comes down to private interests. You have to have private interests in order for government to be able to give you anything. They have to be able to take it from somebody or pay them for it. If they can't properly compensate them for it and they can't take it, you are not going to have it. That's all there is to it. So the way to get around all that bullshit is to start making it. Because then you can construct markets around it and with your neighbors. And that will do more to keep you alive than trying to figure out a way to pay Uncle Sam more than he's going to be paying you, which is fucking impossible. Yeah, you cannot borrow your way out of debt. You can't do it. And currently that's the Federal Reserve's only plan, is to try and borrow its way out of debt. And I really think it's a shame, because, You would think that these people that are supposedly like the smartest out there in the world, they're these big brain fucking economists, man. They know all this shit, but they can't avoid overutilizing their advantage to the point where it's damaging the rest of the economy. And this is why we should not have had a private central bank, because they have interests outside of the customer's interests, i.e. you, me, everybody else on planet Earth. And that's not a good position for anybody to be in. It's basically totalitarianism via paper. And I think that people are getting sick of that game. It's one of the reasons I even got involved in Bitcoin, is that I had an interesting experience when I was a child. And that experience, which I'm not going to go ahead and disclose, because I think sometimes the wrong people are listening to the show, and I'd rather not give them that kind of information on me. At least not now. But anyway, this experience, it taught me the relativity of value, and that it changes. And the only dependency that really matters is how much of the market is willing to acknowledge that it has value. And one of the great things about cryptocurrencies is it doesn't have to be your next door neighbor, and it could be anybody on planet Earth. If somebody else out there is willing to dedicate enough time, effort, and hardware and electricity to maintaining a miner on it, that makes it worth it. With proof of work coins, people talk about the waste of electricity, but you know what that electricity is? It's your material investment in these projects. When people tell you that nothing is backing these projects, they're full of shit. None of these projects happen without your material investment in them. None of them. And I don't give a fuck what it is. But if it's a proof of work coin, when you're talking about the coin itself, you're talking about a receipt for work that has already been performed. No miners, no mining, no blockchain, no block reward, no Bitcoin. That's how it works. You have to have the computers first, and you have to have the willing individual. The person willing to dedicate that hardware to a specific networking coin. You have to have that, otherwise you don't have a coin. So again, when people tell you that they're not worth anything, what they're really trying to do is to get you to regard them the same as coins that are not backed by anything. Federal Reserve notes are backed by the will of the U.S. government to enforce the Federal Reserve's monopoly within an economy. That's it. Bitcoin didn't even need that in order to start. It just had to have willing individual partners, miners, that were willing to support it. And that's the same for any proof of work coin. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And we're going to Body Count. And you absolutely know we're going to be picking off of Carnivore, because that is the new album. And so, I think he's doing these in alphabetical order now. The last one was Bloodlust. This one's Carnivore. Wonder what D is going to be. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with a song from this. But exactly which one to start with? I mean, it's a really good album. All the way through, I haven't found anything that I don't like about it. And, shit. Let's go ahead and throw with Carnivore. First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Disturbed with The Game. Damn it, you know what? I love Prong, and it's fucking playing Divide and Conquer right now. It's one of those very few times that I'm going to countermand the computer and its wisdom when it picks Prong. I mean, come on now. You can't go wrong with that. Anywho, what we're going to get into today, I've been talking about MakerDAO, and I've always been kind of critical because I've never felt that their DPoS system could be relied upon to give us the correct thing. Like they can, it's a proof of stake system, and they can vote on who gets to validate the transactions. And that can create some problems. If you have a whale on there, they can basically make themselves the validators and double spend transactions or do other things. And that's a big threat to a coin. And what MakerDAO was facing, or not MakerDAO, there's another one out there that's a DPoS system. Steemit, I think it was Steem, where Justin Sun, guy who, he basically runs Tron, he collaborated with a bunch of exchange operators and got them to flex their Steem that they had, their customers' Steem, and flex the voting rights on them to make friendly nodes the validators. And so that kind of indicated the big danger with any one of these systems, is that if the incentive gets high enough, people will in fact vote in very self-serving manners. And this is one of the reasons why Bitcoin is designed the way it is because the balance basically works out to where, you start to see that somebody has too much influence over the coin and the policies on the coin, and you say, I don't want to support their policies with my hash power, so I'm going to take my hash power elsewhere, or I'm simply going to stop mining Bitcoin. And that's something when we're talking about a proof of stake system. It seems to me that there's too much potential for bait and switch, and it's one of the reasons why I've always been really critical of Ethereum and their tries to get the miners to go to a proof of stake system. And they've been trying for like 2 years now. As a matter of fact, when Ethereum was still in the vaporware state, because they made all kinds of promises up front, and they've failed on quite a few of them, but they've made good on a few too. And that's the important part, is that they have made good on establishing probably the largest cryptocurrency network on the planet right now. And that used to be Bitcoin. And it could be Bitcoin again, but it's really going to depend on the next couple of years. I think the next couple of years are going to be the defining factor in this transition to publicly provided currencies, digital currencies provided by people like you, people that are willing to dedicate the electricity, the hardware, and the bandwidth to the effort. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, the latest on MakerDAO. MakerDAO Foundation plots its own demise. And I can assure you right now that it will probably not happen without a significant fork. But we're going to continue anyway. This is on April 3rd, 2020 at 10:11 UTC. And this is by Brady Dale, so yes, penis. MakerDAO Foundation founder Rune Christensen told CoinDesk late last year that MakerDAO Foundation had 2 years left before its planned obsolescence. It sounds like it might take a little bit longer, but recent moves suggest the organization really is serious about shutting down. First, it turned control of the supply of undistributed governance tokens, MKR, over to MKR holders at large. Then on Thursday, Christensen detailed a 3-plank plan that would get community governance to the point where MakerDAO users wouldn't even notice when the foundation shuts its doors. That said, that institutional knowledge won't evaporate. Christensen assured listeners, quote, "The foundation team will not leave the community. The team will change and be in a different form," he said. It's been said that we're in the middle of a resurgence in decentralized autonomous organizations. MakerDAO is arguably the most popular app on Ethereum, and for it to become a full DAO successfully would be a major step in that trend. One with repercussions that could be felt much longer than the meltdown of the DAO in 2016. The crux of the idea is to fully decentralize the MakerDAO Foundation so that different parts of its work will be done by different organizations. Those workers would be employed, ultimately, by MKR holders. Quote, "It's important that we now as a community begin to prepare governance for taking over full responsibility of the system," Christensen said. Calls to open source the Fed may someday stem from MakerDAO's success, which almost amounted to a fourth plank. A recurring theme in Christensen's talk was that the deployment of what he called a new governance paradigm needs to start soon so that the community can get used to it by doing it. By doing it, they will improve it and themselves get better at using it so that when the foundation is really gone, it will no longer be necessary. Quote, "The rollout of the self-sustaining MakerDAO initiative is going to be a very much a step-by-step process that will happen very carefully and deliberately," Christensen said. About 2 years from now, that's when the foundation will begin dissolving, and the dissolution will itself be a gradual process. Chris Berninsk of venture firm Placeholder sees a bright future following these moves. Quote, "Maker is already the most transparent and inclusive credit facility the world has, and decentralizing its operations will be key to hardening this system against adversarial actors and scaling it into a global utility." Berninsk told CoinDesk, quote, "Calls to open source the Fed may someday stem from MakerDAO's success." Plank 1. Elected Paid Contributors, ECPs. MakerDAO needs to break up the various kinds of work it does into different organizations around the world, Christensen said. There could be a few development teams, a few marketing teams, and a few teams working on the government relations in different countries, all depending on what the protocol needed. Oh my god, this guy's smoking crack. The idea is that groups would become MKR holders with proposals and budgets, and if those globally dispersed MKR holders liked the concept, they would fund the project. Decred has been doing something similar for a while. And let's right-click on that. Still, quote, "The crucial element of compensation by the protocol needs to be developed," Christensen said. He also said there are parts of the foundation now that can spin off and become standalone entities, pointing specifically to MakerDAO's exchange Oasis. On some level, it's already doing this. Christensen said MakerDAO already has fairly independent bodies now, listing out the risk team, the governance facilitator, and the Oracle team. Plank 2. Maker improvement proposals. The improvement proposal model goes all the way back to the beginnings of the internet itself, and each corner of crypto has its own version. MakerDAO has an extremely loose and informal early history and is now moving into a much more formal structure, but one that reflects crypto's values of decentralization. No. I think assigning centralized entities to do independent sectors of your project does not make it decentralized. Those efforts are supposed to be coming from the stakeholders, i.e. people like you and me, people that are supposedly holding or circulating MKR as some sort of currency. Continuing on, quote, "At its core, the goal is to formalize and structure what is already happening organically in the community," Christensen said. Quote, "Maker improvement proposals are a way to completely formalize and structure this concept and then make the process entirely transparent end to end so there's no black box." Christensen described this as the next thing the community really needs to move on. The MakerDAO Foundation's Charles St. Louis published a forum post on April 1st about the timeline for rolling this out. The foundation would release 13 specific MIPs for the community to consider on April 6th, he wrote. core pillars of a self-sustaining DAO. Long-running governance is critical and is built on 3 pillars. Number 1, elected paid contributors and domain teams. Wrong. Number 2, maker improvement proposals. Yep. Number 3, vote delegates. I don't know about all that business. And let's see here if it'll let me expand that. And delegates, a fully implemented governance paradigm. You've got guys smoking fucking crack. Smoking crack. Shit. Undo close tab and then scale that thing back. Alright, yeah, so let's scroll down here. Self-sustaining MakerDAO initiative is going to be very much a step-by-step process. Oh, wait. Yeah, we got that part. Maker is ready for transparent. Plank 1. Plank 2. Okay, that was where we fucked up. Joe Krug, co-chief investment officer of Pantera Capital, told CoinDesk he felt the move is a return to MakerDAO's grassroots. Quote, to date, the foundation has almost a bit too much control, in my opinion, and I see it become more community-driven would be a great thing. And to see it become more, whatever. Plank 3, vote delegates. Voter participation needs to be improved on MakerDAO. To do so, there needs to be a way for small holders who care but are not super informed to participate by delegating their tokens. This is a well-established process on Tezos, for example, but Christensen argues that inability to delegate has kept small holders and extremely security-conscious holders from voting their MKR. No, it could be that they were just fine the way it fucking was and they don't really want the change. I mean, really, why is that so fucking hard to understand? Vote delegates are, quote, people or entities that are assigned votes by MKR holders, Christensen said. The foundation believes that vote delegates are incredibly important in order to really overhaul the way the voting currently works. Christensen said the job of delegates will be to take positions and engage in public debates in the forum in the way elected leaders would. This way, delegates will earn the support of voters who will back their views with their tokens. In short, it's representative democracy, but one where a voter can change their representative in real time. You fucking people gotta be kidding me. Quote, smaller MKR holders actually have a lot of MKR. It is the biggest voting bloc, but right now there is no way for them to pool their votes, Christensen said. Once they can, he believes they will have real clout. No, dude, they already have real clout. And they're already exercising their votes. Just because they aren't exercising them in a way that you want them to, doesn't mean they aren't exercising them. Continuing on, crypto entrepreneur Rick Burton is bullish on vote delegation in the DeFi world. He has already stated his intention to serve as a delegate for holders of the Compound Governance token. Great. So they can just, basically they're going to create another token, or they have a token already, and they're going to use that to be delegating their real control over the tokens that you hold. That's really interesting, or at least that's the way it sounds. And he would like to do the same for Maker. Oh, no, that's, I guess, on his project. Yeah, his intention to serve as a delegate for holders of the Compound Governance token. Let's see here. Let's click on that. Oh, it's a Twitter. It's a fucking tweet. The most competent team in crypto just announced their governance token. It will be able to shape the protocol by delegating your tokens to people. Delegate needs 1%. I would like to become a protocol politician for Compound Finance. I wonder how this works with DAO. Rick, I'd love for you to be one of the first crypto politicians. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Let's see. Could I charge people a percentage of their tokens over time? That way I could afford to hire some incredible talent. Fucking people are crazy. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, I don't see any real future in vote delegation. I mean, because basically, when you come into cryptocurrencies, you're taking responsibility over what you want to do with your own monetary value. And this is a project where you are given the opportunity to vote that away. Actually, you're probably the ability to properly be represented is probably already taken away from you by default. Meaning they probably have such a high volume of coins in a location that they are able to exercise the voting rights of at any time. And I would assume that is the Maker Foundation itself has enough coins to vote the way they want to vote. And, because other people aren't voting the way they want them to vote is probably why they're throwing this shit. They're trying to change the distribution of votes so that they can just vote through what they want. And, the problem with these projects, and I find it hilarious because they have a little bit of trouble seeing it at first, is that when they start to exercise their control in ways that are completely against the interests of the other holders of the coin and completely against their interests, those people sell their coins. And then you're left with all the wonderful control that you get. People think that effect is going to be limited to the issuers of fiat currencies, and that's just not the case. It's for every currency. You can make up a new cryptocurrency right now. It's the same for that one. If nobody likes your fucking coin, they're not going to fucking use your coin. If you're an asshole on your coin and you're perverting your position as the arbiter of the monetary policy of the coin, the market will respond, and there isn't anything you can do about that. You can't change your governance model to where it'll trick them to the point where they won't make that decision for themselves. I mean, really, if you're trying to get people to decide against their own interest and they're deciding not to make that decision, and you just create more coins so that you can vote against their interest anyway, they're going to sell your fucking coins. And they're going to use another cryptocurrency to transact their monetary value in. And I really think that so many people do not understand this about cryptocurrencies. And it's the thing that saddens me about Microsoft and all their stuff is they'll probably find a way to monetize stuff and you'll probably be able to make some money on it. Now, whether you will ever be able to come quote-unquote rich on it is a whole different story. Because at some point or another, I expect that it'll probably be found out that the exchange rate for the value of your time and your effort and your IP that you're giving to Microsoft, you're getting jack shit, and they're making millions and bazillions off of your effort. Well, if you heard that, would you want to continue to participate as a user of their products? I haven't renewed my Microsoft Gold membership for probably 2 years now. And it's because you got to keep paying for that shit. Fuck that. And then on top of that, they want you to pay for downloadable content. No. You want me to buy your fucking game? Make it on a fucking DVD or a CD. Make it so I can install it on my un-internet connected fucking device and play your fucking game. You got 30 fucking gigabytes worth of space on that DVD. If you can't fit your fucking game in 30 fucking gigabytes, I don't want it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And as far as where to go, man, it always fucks me up when I play all kinds of different stuff like that. Let's go with some textures. New Horizons, First Dance. Or not First Dance. Next. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Dope with Spine for You. Anywho, that was the one that I let it run a little bit over on, because I like that song. Anywho, I didn't really finish what we were talking about with MKR, so let's go ahead and finish that one up before we dive into anything else. I, unlike the U.S. government, like to get things done, and so I want to finish one thing before we get into anything else. Crypto entrepreneur Rick Burton is bullish on vote delegation in the DeFi world. He has already stated his intention to serve as a delegate for holders of the Compound Governance token, and he would like to do the same for Maker. Quote, "I want to become a protocol politician for the Maker DAO," Burton told CoinDesk. Burton's goal is to be a countervailing force to some of the largest holders of MKR. "I will amass delegated voters from the masses to keep Paradigm, A16Z, and Dragonfly in check," he said. Logistical questions. If vote delegates are MakerDAO's legislative body, ECPs and the domain teams are its executive branch. Christensen called ECPs public servants, carrying out the will of the big picture articulated by MKR holders. Domain teams, I see them more as following the results of voters and implementing that rather than they themselves being political actors, Christensen said. No! Wrong! 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 If you put the voting power into the hands of another entity, they're going to vote according to their own interests and their own biases. And it doesn't matter what you do to tell them to fucking vote for. It doesn't matter. If somebody else is able to put more money in their face, that's what gets done. That's how your representative systems work right now. You notice how your government works right now? That's a representative system. You want to bring that shit to your money? Give me a fucking break. Continuing on. Well, I mean, it is kind of part of your money, but the thing is that you're the one that's able to make that choice. And in Bitcoin, you're supposed to be making that choice by mining it and choosing which variant of it that you want to support. I know, it's asking something of you, but that's how these systems work the best. The only reason why MakerDAO even works is because there are Ethereum miners out there. Anyway, continuing on. All of this raises a lot of practical issues, such as who will pay the people who work for MakerDAO? That is, who will actually sign the checks? There's a lawsuit being organized right now against the protocol by borrowers whose collateral was wiped out by a $4 million attack on March 12th. Which part of the DAO would face the lawsuit? Christensen acknowledged that these are good questions, and they aren't answered yet. In a way, he said, they will never fully be answered because it will all need to change over time. But it's important that the community starts practicing running itself, and soon. He's a fucking idiot. Quote, "It's not just that the tools aren't in place, but that the community needs a lot of experience using these tools," Christensen said. No, dude, it's because your shit's too complicated. Nobody really understands what it's for, what are the advantages of it, and so they're not participating properly in it. Continuing on. The aftermath of the March 12th vulnerability was certainly a test, one that required filling a deficit in the Ethereum collateral backing DAI stablecoins. Avichal Garg of Electric Capital, an MKR holder, told CoinDesk he was impressed by the quality and the dispersed nature of the conversation. Quote, "I was very impressed at how it was both extremely effective and extremely decentralized. I felt like multiple pockets of people around the world coordinating, and the community basically made all of the right things happen with minimal involvement from the foundation," Garg wrote. Yeah, that's how this shit's supposed to work. Continuing on. When CoinDesk spoke to Christensen at length in 2019, it was clear that he was ready to move on to other things. But he also didn't want his creation to go awry without him. He wants the community he founded to gradually get experience with self-sovereignty over time. In a way, it seems like Christensen envies the way that Satoshi disappeared early. Quote, By the time the dissolution of the foundation happens, Christensen said, it won't even matter. No one will care. Yeah, that's really funny, dude. Somebody will care, and somebody will be wanting to hold your ass over a fucking fire for it. You know, these people think that they're going to escape any kind of responsibility for setting up failed systems, or systems that they knew at the beginning were more than likely to be gamed and abused to the detriment of their users. And the thing is that I think the order of what is to be brought, you know, what kind of actions will be brought to account, I think that's going to change. See, we're in a really unique situation at the moment with regard to fiat currencies kind of collapsing everywhere. And the funny part about it is they're collapsing faster in other places. And it's because people underestimate the amount of power that the American consumer market provides. You know, and there was enough of it being dispersed around that any kind of disruption in our markets causes major disruptions in theirs. I mean, China's freaking out right now because they normally provide us a lot of stuff and they make a lot of money off of it. You know, they're like second, third, fourth generation of, you know, complete statistical process control mentality and just-in-time manufacturing. And so, you know, the biggest problem with just-in-time and all of that is that it works your efficiencies, and that's what it's supposed to do, and it's what makes things more profitable and whatnot. But when you're doing that, you're not accounting for the future. You're not accounting for any kind of service drought or anything like that. And so when your shit is down, your shit is down. You know, I think I've described this before that, you know, if you got a 150 step manufacturing process. You know, it takes time at each one of those steps for it to get through, and you've managed to streamline it to where you can get it all to happen within 24 hours. That it makes those 150 manufacturing steps, and at the end of 24 hours, it's gone from A to Z. Right? The problem is this. If it's step 5, there's a major production fuck up, I'm not going to know it's step 150 for probably 12 hours. And then after that's run out, after all that supply is run out, it's going to take me another, 18 hours if from the point that they actually fix the problem before I get any more product. And, you know, again, and this is just a microcosm. We're talking about a single manufacturing unit with 150 manufacturing steps. Now imagine you've got a fucking supply chain that extends 8,000 miles from someplace in China to someplace in the United States, or someplace in Canada, or someplace in Mexico. It's going to take you like 8 to 12 months before you know that there's a problem, and it's going to take you another 8 to 12 months before you've resolved the problem if you're continuing with the previous manufacturing setup. You know, I think there's going to be a big push to draw a lot of manufacturing back here. As a matter of fact, I think people are just going to get tired of seeing less and less shit in the stores and say, you know what, I'm going to start making shit because I can't count on the stuff being there at the store. And that'll be the great expansion of the economy. You know, I think at this point, we really need to back off on the idea of useless regulation. And there's been a lot of it introduced into crypto. But anyway, I don't know. Did I finish all of this? Yeah, I did. Okay. But yeah, this guy, he's trying to escape the responsibility of the place that he's set up for himself. You know, he set the fucking table. He put himself at the head of it. And now he wants to ditch the table. Well, the people that signed on to MakerDAO and supported it, they did it as is. They did it with expectations for how the governance model was supposed to work. And the idea that you're going to transition away from that, I think it's silly. Because the fact of the matter is that at the time of the creation of MakerDAO, there were a million other fucking projects that people could have supported, but they saw the vision of MakerDAO and they said, I like that model. I want to support that model. It's not everybody. It's not ever going to be everybody. But it's somebody, right? And they chose it according to certain parameters that they found attractive about the project. Now, the idea about an evolving governance model is basically, I think anyway, that you end up in a point where you're supporting things that you don't really support, and you're supporting them by default, and that actually has a heightened possibility of happening when you have a politician that's representing your vote. Because you could say all the shit that you want to your representative about what you want them to support and how you want them to support and all that shit, but they still have the option as to whether or not they want to fulfill on your interests. Maybe there's somebody that's paying them more money than you, and maybe they have a contrary interest to yours. There goes all your fucking political will. There goes all your political voice, because you gave it up to them. You're going to end up supporting somebody who's doing something that's diametrically opposed to your values and ethics by default. And you probably won't even know it at the time that it happens. You'll just know it when you try to execute a specific type of contract, and that's no longer supported by MakerDAO, and you're fucked. Because you made promises based on what you knew yesterday, and now you're completely fucked. Because you can't fulfill on your promises, because the function of MakerDAO is changed without your knowledge or consent, you are now in violation of all the contracts that you'd established. And this is the threat that people fucking disregard. They completely disregard that shit. That's why you're supposed to be supporting these with material, with energy, with bandwidth, with hardware. Because everything else is just some word that can be misrepresented. And of course there's still threats that what you're supporting could change. But at least then you are the one that has definitive knowledge and control over the situation. And I think that is the biggest point, that none of these fucking articles, when you're reading CoinDesk or Cointelegraph, they never talk about cryptocurrency projects in these contexts. You know, they talk about, like this article here, it's talking about you in maybe the loosest terms, community, right? For all we know, community applies to powerless end users. You know, you gotta watch the vocabulary that people use. You know, his creation. His creation was just a bunch of fucking code until you decided, or people like you, decided to implement it, decided to install it, decided to support it with their Ethereum. So, again, he didn't create shit. He wrote some fucking code. Other people like you decided to support it, and his creation came into being as a result. And this is one of the things that we are going to learn the hard way, and we've already learned it the hard way. And it really bugs me that anybody would write an article with this kind of mentality still. And I believe it is one of the things that's going to change. You know, we've been drifting along in this fictional wealth, you know, with regard to the Federal Reserve and other central banks just printing up wealth, or printing up money rather, and devoting it where they want to. You know, I mean, if you just look at the effects of being able to print money or create money in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and you watch the abuses that happen there, you've got to understand that those same abuses could be happening with your central bank. That is what that position entails, is the temptation to exert other people's will in ways that work to your advantage and not necessarily theirs. But again, this is where cryptocurrencies are different, and it's really one of the things that's bugged me the most about the development on the hardware end. You know, I mean, I believe that mining should be way cheaper than it currently is, and that way more people should be participating in it. You want to talk about scale? As soon as you create a node for a network, you've scaled it. You've made it to where it can support more traffic. And, again, handing that off to other people and saying, oh, you do that for me. You do that for me. You're just setting yourself up to be another slave. It's sad. It really is. But I do have more here. Let's see. I think it was Decred. Oh, that's way late. Way old. Nah. Yeah, we're not going to go with that one. SEC, though. This is fucking hilarious. Or at least on its face it is. I've said multiple times that you cannot associate a cryptocurrency in any way, shape, or form to a physical commodity. The two are separate things. Anyway, here it is. It's on CoinDesk. SEC charges 2 with fraudulent water-backed token sale. Water-backed. Can you fucking believe that? Water-backed. This is authored on April 3rd, 2020 at 1933 UTC. And it was by Danny Nelson. So yes, penis. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission charged a former Texas pastor and his wife for allegedly defrauding hundreds of investors through an alkaline water-backed cryptocurrency, Teshuacoin. Larry Donnell and Shawana Leonard were charged Friday with defrauding investors by allegedly stealing nearly $500,000 in the sale of bogus stock certificates, and shilling an alkaline water-backed cryptocurrency and a non-existent Bitcoin mining operation. The Leonards are accused of specifically targeting the African American community in this alleged scheme. Their companies, Teshua Business Group and Teshuacoin, are also named as defendants. The Leonards allegedly attempted to sell phony stock in their alkaline water bottle company, Teshuacoin, which they said would yield, quote, short-term investment returns of up to 3,000%. According to the complaint, this raised $291,044.07. Larry Leonard is also accused of shilling Teshuacoin's, quote, fully functioning cryptocurrency, Teshuacoin. The complaint said he compared Teshuacoin's usability to Bitcoin and touted its, quote, unique attribute. It was backed by Teshuacoin's bottled alkaline water. The SEC alleges Teshuacoin was not actually backed by Teshuacoin. Leonard allegedly raised $170,395.20 out of his target of $20 million through this scheme. Aim big. Leonard allegedly stole an additional $25,544.96 from investors in Teshuacoin's non-existent Bitcoin mine. The SEC said he failed to disclose the speculative nature of Bitcoin mining and never actually invested the stolen funds in the mine. Along the way, the couple is said to have stolen $486,984.28 from 500 total investors. God damn! Man, if they put that much effort into a legitimate coin project, they'd probably be so far in the green right now. But no, it's more fun to try and steal people's money by defrauding them. Yeah, they're fucking assholes. And you're always going to run into people like this in association with money. And I don't care who the fucking issuer is. These are the first kind of assholes in line trying to get that money. And I mean, don't doubt it. You fucking look around on the legacy marketplace and you see all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse going on that is just going unnoticed. But see, I believe that we've been living with that for so long that these waste individuals, the ones that are collecting this coin, and basically defrauding the Federal Reserve, that they themselves have been supporting fraudulent projects. And those fraudulent projects are running out of money. Because for whatever reason, the Federal Reserve is finally reevaluating their books, and they're saying, well, gosh, maybe we shouldn't be giving money to these guys because they're supporting this and it's costing us money over here. And so we got, that it's a process, and I think that we're going to go through it. And the problem is that it's not just going to, it's not really a problem if you think about it, is that what eventually this is going to do is it is going to winnow down the priorities of entities such as the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they're going to quit talking this shit about it's illegal because you didn't register with us. They're going to be looking at it like this case, where it's obvious these people are running a fucking fraudulent operation just on the face of their claims. I mean, come on now. But again, it's a criminal investigation. It's a criminal act that we're talking about. They have no intention to fulfill on their project. They probably never had any intention of buying the miners or anything like that. They just saw the money, said, hey, these suckers are giving us money. Excellent. Our project goal is $20 million. Let's keep it running. And they ran into somebody that was willing to report them. And I think this is going to continue to happen probably for the next 6 months to a year. And you're going to see a lot of businesses that you thought were legitimate, that were supported by illegitimately acquired funding, and if they aren't generating enough business on their own, they themselves are going to go down. And that includes a lot of projects here in crypto. We're seeing it die off again. And I think that when things restructure, you're going to find that the projects that are still in existence are going to be ones that came about through organic means. Meaning somebody released and supported some code. And people out there legitimately mined it. Legitimately dedicated hardware, bandwidth, and electricity to it. And there's a lot of people out there that claim their projects are just as good or whatever. And no. And the biggest problem is that where there is actual fraud, like in MakerDAO, where we are seeing abuses, because they are according to the rules of the DAO, it's something where, we just, kind of accept it. But the problem is that the Ethereum is not going to lose its appeal as something to try and hack. And with every iteration of trying to get away from the MakerDAO that Christensen does, the greater the MakerDAO is going to get threatened. He's trying to divest himself of the project, but the fact of the matter is that unless he wants to trust the market entirely, which he should do, I'm sure there are more than enough interested parties that they would see to their best interest, and they would see to the best activities going on MakerDAO's network of users. But it's because it's their interest. Right now, with Christensen's hand still in it, we can't tell if it's according to his interest or the interest of some MakerDAO holders. And so, he either has to divest himself entirely or stay engaged. One of the two. If he stays engaged, he's going to face the SEC, he's going to face the CFTC, he's going to face the FATF and the IMF and all those other fucking regulatory entities that want to stuff a hand up his ass. But that's because he's retained control over the coin to the extent that he could make damaging decisions on behalf of other users and harm his user base. But that's the responsibility that he's assumed onto himself. And just because the accountability hasn't been brought up yet doesn't mean it won't be. If at any point he should abuse his position, he is going to be bringing himself open to a great deal of regulatory friction. I'll just say that. Let's see. I wanted to go through this Teshua thing really quick here. Teshuacoin. Let's see, in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Texas, Houston Division. Oh my God, they must have been really stupid if they're getting prosecuted in Houston. Complaint, Plaintiffs' Securities and Exchange Commission. Commission files this complaint against defendants Teshuacoin, LLC, Teshuacoin, Larry Donald Leonard, Larry Leonard, Shawana Leonard, and Teshua Business Group, LLC, TBG, collectively defendants, and alleges as follows. Summary. Since at least 2017, Larry Leonard, individually and through Teshuacoin and TBG, along with his wife, Shawana Leonard, targeted investors in the African American community by promising oversized returns on various investments related to Teshuacoin, a business that bottled and distributed alkaline water. During the course of this scheme, defendants raised nearly $500,000 from over 500 investors through materially false and misleading statements and omissions and other deceptive conduct. Number 2. Defendants perpetrated their fraud through 3 separate offerings. First, Larry Leonard, Shawana Leonard, and Teshuacoin offered and sold worthless, quote, stock certificates that did not actually convey ownership interest in Teshuacoin. Larry Leonard also promised investors who purchased Teshuacoin stock short-term investment returns of up to 3,000%. Second, Larry Leonard, individually and on behalf of Teshuacoin, fraudulently sold Teshuacoins, a purported cryptocurrency issued by Teshuacoin. Among other things, he lied about the usability of Teshuacoins and falsely claimed that Teshuacoins were backed by real assets owned by Teshuacoin, i.e. the bottled water sold by the company. If you drink one of the bottles of water, does that burn a coin? Anyway, continuing. Finally, Larry Leonard, individually and on behalf of Teshuacoin, peddled investments in a purported high-yield short-term Bitcoin mining program. The Bitcoin mining program, however, never existed. After commingling investor funds, that's probably the thing that they really went after, is the commingling aspect. Investor funds in TBG's and Teshuacoin's bank accounts with funds from unrelated and undisclosed business ventures, drug sales. The Leonards then used these funds to fund other business ventures and to pay for their personal expenses. By committing the acts alleged in this complaint, defendants directly and indirectly engaged in, and unless restrained and enjoined by the court, will continue to engage in acts, transactions, practices, and courses of business that violate certain anti-fraud provisions of the federal securities laws, specifically Section 17A of the Securities Act of 1933, Securities Act, 15 U.S.C. 77, and Section 10B of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. 15 U.S.C. 78J, subsection B. And Rule 10B-5, thereunder 17 CFR 240.10B-5. Larry Leonard, Shawana Leonard, and Teshuacoin also violated the securities registrations provisions, including sections 5A and 5C of these subsections, or the Securities Act, 15 U.S.C. 77E, subsection A and C, by offering to sell and or selling unregistered securities. You knew they were going to throw that one in there, didn't you? In the interest of protecting the public from any further fraudulent activity and harm, the Commission brings this action against the defendants, seeking A. permanent injunctive relief, B. disgorgement of all ill-gotten gains plus prejudgment interest thereon, C. civil penalties, and D. all other equitable and ancillary relief to which the court determines the Commission is entitled. Jurisdiction and venue. This case involves the offer and sale of securities in the forms of stock and investment contracts related to a cryptocurrency and Bitcoin mining participation units. The stock and the investment contracts are securities under Section 2A1 of the Securities Act, 15 U.S.C. 17B-A1, and Section 3A10 of the Exchange Act, 15 U.S.C. 78C-A10. Thus, the court has jurisdiction over this action under Section 20D and 22A of the Securities Act, 15 U.S.C. 77T subsection D and 77V subsection A, and Sections 21D, 21E, and 27 of the Exchange Act, 15 U.S.C. 78U subsection D, 78U subsection E, and 78AA. Which means they got all the way to Z and started over again. Defendants directly and or indirectly made use of the mails and or of the means and instrumentalities of interstate commerce in connection with the transactions, acts, practices, and courses of business described in this complaint, i.e. they used the mail service to send drugs. Venue is proper because a substantial part of the events or omissions giving rise to the claims occurred within the Southern District of Texas, Houston Division, including but not limited to defendant's sale of securities, misrepresentations, omissions, acts, practices, transactions, and courses of business. Defendants. Defendant Larry Donald Leonard, 2, age 45, is a natural person residing in Houston, Texas. Larry Leonard serves as the president of Teshuacoin and TBG, entities he created and controlled along with his wife, Shawana Leonard. Shawana Leonard does not hold any securities licenses and is not and has never been registered with the commission in any capacity. Defendant Shawana Leonard, age 45, is a natural person residing in Houston, Texas. Shawana Leonard serves as the Director of Operations of Teshuacoin and TBG, entities she created and controlled along with her husband, Larry Leonard. Shawana Leonard does not hold any securities licenses and is not and has never been registered with the commission in any capacity. That doesn't make her a criminal, you know. Teshuacoin LLC. Teshuacoin is a Texas member-managed limited liability company formed in 2017 with its principal place of business in Houston, Texas. TBG is Teshuacoin's sole managing member. Neither Teshuacoin nor its securities are or were ever registered with the commission. I don't consider that to be a crime. Teshuacoin Business Group LLC is a Texas member-managed limited liability corporation formed in 2017 with its principal place of business in Houston, Texas. TBG's members include include the Leonards. Neither TBG nor its securities are or were ever registered with the commission. Again, not really a crime in my book. Larry Leonard is a businessman who, along with his wife Shawana Leonard, created and operated several entities including Teshuacoin and TBG. The former Christian pastor, Larry Leonard, capitalized on his background as, quote, a man of the cloth to gain investors' trust. As early as spring 2017, he personally and on behalf of Teshuacoin and TBG and Shawana Leonard victimized those investors through their fraudulent schemes. Initially, the Leonards focused on courting investments in Teshuacoin, which they touted as the first black-owned alkaline water company. Although Teshuacoin conducted some operations, the company earned little to no profit since its inception. Larry Leonard expanded the scheme to include a cryptocurrency dubbed Teshuacoin and a Bitcoin mining program. Larry Leonard and Teshuacoin solicited investors primarily through social media. The Leonards appeared on Facebook Live webcasts aimed at, quote, wealth generation for the African American community. In those Facebook Live videos, Larry Leonard and Teshuacoin made brazen misrepresentations and omissions regarding inter alia, expected investment returns, and how they would use the investors' funds. For example, in a November 15th, 2018 Facebook Live video, Larry Leonard falsely claimed the commission authorized the Leonards to raise funds from investors and continue their business operations. In fact, Teshuacoin TBG and the securities from the 3 investment offerings were never registered with the commission, much less authorized by the commission. Defendants' fraudulent offerings. Between March 2017 and December 2018, defendants perpetrated their fraud through 3 separate investment offerings. Number 1, the offer and sale of Teshuacoin stock certificates. Number 2, the offer and sale of a cryptocurrency dubbed Teshuacoin. And number 3, multiple Bitcoin mining investment opportunities. Defendants raised approximately $486,984.28. Teshuacoin stock certificates. The Leonards individually and on behalf of Teshuacoin sold worthless stock certificates in Teshuacoin through a series of materially false statements and omissions. The Leonards told investors they would become part owners in Teshuacoin if they purchased stock. Larry Leonard also promised that the stock would increase in value. The Leonards knew or were severely reckless in not knowing that these statements were false. Actually, they probably knew. Teshuacoin is a limited liability company, not a corporation. Therefore, it does not have and cannot issue common stock. In other words, any stock certificates purporting to provide ownership in Teshuacoin are only worth the paper on which they are printed. However, the Leonards never told investors that stock certificates did not actually convey ownership in Teshuacoin and therefore were worthless. Further, Larry Leonard arbitrarily set the price of Teshua's stock certificates, which ranged from a few cents to $1, but were typically 10 cents per share. Further, Larry Leonard made brazen and unsubstantiated promises regarding the increases in the value of the Teshuacoin stock. During one Facebook Live presentation, Larry Leonard promised that a $50 investment in Teshuacoin, quote, is going to be worth $750 overnight, just like that, to noon tomorrow. He later promised that a $1,000 investment would be worth $30,000 in just a few days. Dude, that's where you really fuck up. Okay, now you want to talk about an actual criminal act? That's a criminal act. That is a fraudulent claim. You can't guarantee that kind of fucking return. I don't care who you are. You could be Berkshire fucking Hathaway. You couldn't guarantee me that kind of return. Just because it's possible in cryptocurrencies doesn't mean it's going to happen for every one of them. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music for a little bit. And as far as where to go, did we play some Megadeth? I think we did, but I'm not sure. So let's go ahead and play some Megadeth and kind of resolve the issue. And as far as where to go, and no, that is not the COVID. I just smoked too much pot. Here it is. Kick the Chair by Megadeth here on Coin Metal. And that was Dillinger Escape Plan with Weekend Sex Change. Goddamn, I always wanted to say that. But we are drawing down to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Certainly not Teshuacoin. And as far as where to go with our last dance, of course I haven't picked anything out, because I don't do that. just like to fly it by the seat of my pants. But I would like to leave you guys with one last dance, and I think I might have found it. It's one of those that I like a lot, and it's actually the song that attracted me the most to this band, so I think it's only appropriate. But we do have just a teeny tiny bit more time. Yeah, I don't see good things happening for Teshuacoin, but I will say this. There's going to be more scams, and they are going to find you through social media. And we saw this the last time around that there was a little bit of desperation, there a little bit of wavering in the confidence in the US dollar, and we're going to see that again. People talk about events that will cause Bitcoin to moon, or cryptocurrencies to moon in general, and that's exactly what we're talking about. What most people don't realize is that Bitcoin follows this trail, that the more US dollars there are in the economy, the more of them it takes to buy Bitcoin. And this is because there is only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever. So a lot of people that have been telling you weird shit about, oh yeah, you can do it off-chain, yeah, they're full of shit. It's meant to be used a specific way. And I believe in the longer term, as we see more and more of the waste being squeezed out of the very policies that our governments try to enforce upon us, because they create more expenses than they're actually worth, that we're going to see a lot of the regulation in finance go away. Because it'll be stopping too much of the legitimate economy from actually working. And so I think that most people, including our legislators, are going to be looking for ways to get the government out of our way rather than put it further in our way. Much to the disgust and dislike of certain entities out there, I'm sure. Anyway, let's go ahead and close it out. Last Dance, 12-foot ninja, one-hand killing. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent weekend. Good night.